So I've been away for a few weeks. I went to visit my family and friends in the Philippines. And the last time I was there was 2018, 7 years ago. As you may know, both my parents passed away contracting COVID in 2021, and I wasn't able to go home because it was lockdown. Okay, so this is the only time that I was able to go home and see my family and friends. So it was really good to be able to catch up with them. There's several highlights. One highlight there was that I was able to celebrate my 10th anniversary as a priest there. Also, I was able to watch a come from away play. You know what happened in Gander, Newfoundland there in 9/11, where 38 planes landed there. I was able to watch the play there, right? Also, I was able to bond with my two brothers and a cousin. And their family. We all went to Japan. It was my first time to go to Japan. It's beautiful, right? Very clean. People there are very polite, very disciplined. We saw a lot of beautiful scenery there. And also shopping. Like a lot of people there love shopping because it's not expensive. And also the food. As you know, I love eating. And so I love the Japanese food there. And I think I ate a lot, and this is what happened to me. I gained so much weight. You know, the joke is that, you know, when I got ordained, some women said, "Oh, what a waste he became a priest." W-A-S-T-E. Now I'm 10 years as a priest. Women are saying, "What a waste." W-A-I-S-T. Of course, that's AI generated, okay? Now, if I stay and live in Japan and I don't watch what I eat and the quantity, I will be like that. I guarantee you. But the highlights of my trip in the Philippines is knowing that one of my brothers is now practicing his faith. That's the highlight. So overjoyed because I've been praying for him for so many years. Now he's practicing his faith. Now, before that, he was really struggling. He doesn't like going to church. I don't know why. His wife would force him to go to church, and they would quarrel if he doesn't want to. So, you know, to avoid the quarrel with his wife, he would go. He would force himself to go. And so his wife, let's say his wife is seated beside him on his left. On the right, he would have his iPhone and he would watch videos there while attending Mass. Okay? And I think what happened there, what happened there with him coming back to the faith, I think there are several factors. One, during COVID, his family started praying the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. Second, he and his wife read the book of Father Don Calloway, Consecration to St. Joseph. So they consecrated themselves to St. Joseph. And then last year, he had a health scare. He went through colonoscopy, and the doctor found 7 polyps, all cancerous, right? And the doctor was telling him that if you delay this, even for 1 year, you would really have this cancer, colon cancer. So he experienced the love and mercy of God. And because of that, he started really practicing the faith. He looked forward to going to Mass on Sundays and receiving the Eucharist, right? And I could say a lot of Catholics were like my brother, right? A lot of Catholics, I think only 30% would come to church on Sundays. And a high percentage of that, right? I think they're just forcing themselves to come to church. They're doing it out of obligation, not out of love, right? And that shouldn't be the case, right? That's why, you know, for us Companions of the Cross, one of our pillars is Eucharistic. We see the importance of the Eucharist in people's lives, right? That's why for us, we make it a point, you know, to have a vibrant Sunday worship. And that vibrant Sunday worship should not be the exception, but should be the norm, right? That's why for us, Companions of the Cross, we try to have this very good Sunday experience. I hope you're having a good Sunday experience when you come here. And we focus on the 3H. What are the 3H? The homily. I hope you're hearing some good homilies from us here, priests here at St. Mary's. The second is, the first one is homily. The second one is hospitality, right? We here at St. Mary's, we want to be known as a very welcoming church. And that's also the focus of our year one of the 3-year revival plan here at St. Mary's. And the third H is hymn. We hear the beautiful hymns being sung by our worship leaders here, right? So the Sunday experience, we try to do that. It's a means to an end, right? It's not an end. I hope you're not just coming here because of the hymn, the homily, and also the hospitality, right? You're coming here to receive Jesus. That good Sunday experience is a means to an end. We want you to come here hungry for God. We want you to come here preparing your soul to receive Jesus in the Eucharist. That's the end, right? And here at St. Mary's in the mid-1980s, Father Bob came here in 1984. He said, if you throw a snowball, you won't hit anyone here. Not a lot of people were coming here on Sundays, right? And then he would preach about give God permission. He would preach it in different ways for a year and a half. And people started to listen. And people started to apply that in their lives. And that is like the turning point of this parish, right? The parish started to become renewed. What happened there is that it's like at the back, there's standing room at the back there. You need to put chairs in between aisles for people to be able to sit, right? And people are hearing vibrant worship, fiery preaching. People started to have a deep reverence for the Eucharist. After Mass, there will be 60 to 90 minutes of fellowship. As we know also, people from afar would come. People would drive 60 to 90 minutes to come here. And conversion started to happen, right? Even grown men, whenever they set foot in this parish, they started to cry, right? So we see here a renewal that happened. And that should not be the exception. That should be the norm in all parishes all over the world. In our gospel today, it says from Luke 9, it says, and taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke them and gave them to the disciples to set before the crowd. And all ate and were filled. The question is, whenever you come to Mass, are you being filled? Right? That's the question, because that's our hope. That when you come to Mass, you are being filled by the Lord. For whatever you need, you are being filled by the Lord. In the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it says there, the Eucharist is the source and summit of the Christian life. For in the Blessed Eucharist is contained the whole spiritual good of the Church, namely Christ Himself. Jesus is the source of everything that we need. But in this homily, I'll just mention 3. First, He is the source of our love. And He proved His love for us by dying on the cross. But not only that, He instituted the Eucharist. The Eucharist is the representation of what He did on the cross. That's why at Mass, you would hear how Jesus would break His body, would pour out His blood, so that you and me will be able to consume Him. And whenever we consume Him, we become so close to Him. In fact, we're even closer to Him than the apostles were when they were with Jesus when he was still alive here on earth. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Yes, right? That's why whenever we receive Jesus, right, we communicate with him because he is so close to us. And he wants to have that intimacy with us, right? So he is the source of love. Second, he is the source of power. Father Bob said this, there is a power in the Eucharist that we celebrate together. And that power is released by God as people of faith gather in obedience to his command with a spirit of expectation. Okay? If we don't experience the power of the Lord through the celebration of the Eucharist, I truly believe that one of the main reasons is that we don't expect it. Do we expect something to happen when we come to celebrate the mysteries of God? We should. When that starts to take hold in an assembly, then the Lord begins to move, right? Do we have that expectant faith that we would experience miracle of healing, miracle of conversion, miracle of deepening in your relationship with the Lord? That's all possible whenever you receive the Eucharist. There is also power in the Eucharist because Jesus said in the Eucharist, my grace is sufficient, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Whenever we receive the Eucharist, we receive that power. Power to do what? To say no to sin and yes to God's will. Another thing that Jesus' source in the Eucharist is he is the source of virtue. And virtue, from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1833, it says, it's a habitual and firm disposition to do good. Okay? How many of you have read that 33 Days to Eucharistic Glory? Okay. In day 31, it says there that the Eucharist is the way of virtue. And I love that meditation there. Matthew Kelly wrote, Jesus is virtue personified. He is honest, patient, kind, humble, courageous, compassionate, hopeful, wise, generous, gentle, resilient, loving. All virtue personified. In fact, like Matthew Kelly also wrote, virtue became man so that man could become virtue. Whatever virtue that we're struggling with, right? Maybe you need the virtue of chastity. Maybe you need a virtue of humility or the virtue of generosity. We all could find that in the Eucharist, in Jesus, right? So, also, St. Peter Amard said, the Eucharist is a divine storehouse filled with every virtue. God has placed it in the world so that everyone may draw from it. Okay? Now, we all know this, right? We are what we eat. Okay? And there's a study that every 35 days, your skin replaces itself and your body makes new cells from the food you eat. So, what the study is saying is that what you eat really becomes you. And, you know, I've been very honest. I have a great attachment to food, right? There's always a tendency for me to go to non-healthy food, right? If I eat a lot of like pizza, hamburger, drink a lot of soda, I know that's not good for my health. That's why it's hard for me to take this discipline of really eating healthier food, vegetables, fruits, right? Water, all those things. And I know when I eat that, I become more fit, right? We become what we eat. That's why we always have a choice. Now, in the Eucharist, we are eating the body and blood of Jesus Christ. So if that is true for our physical body, that is also true for our soul, right? The question is, when we receive Jesus in the Eucharist, do we become like Jesus? Right? Because it's not automatic, right? People, even if you receive Jesus every day in the Eucharist, there could be no change. That's why Pope John Paul II lamented. He said, so many communions, but very little change. Why? What is lacking? Why are we not becoming more like Jesus? Because of lack of faith. People sometimes will come to Mass and just go through the motion of just receiving the Eucharist without any faith, without any relationship with the Lord. That's why it's so important for us to have a relationship with the Lord, so that we would have faith, right? So that we would turn to Him, because He is the source of our everything. Whenever we turn to Him with faith, it unlocks the treasuries that is found in the Eucharist. That's why for us here, as I've said, as Companions of the Cross is one of our pillars, that we want to have a vibrant worship, a Sunday worship. We want you to have a Sunday experience, but it's a means to an end. What is that end? We want you to come hungry for God. We want you to come preparing your soul to receive Jesus. And whenever you have faith and you turn to Jesus, who is the source of your everything, expect the miracle to happen. And what is the greatest miracle? That you become like Jesus.